Go ahead and move on to our next presenter, Khokolah Sherzad. She came from Community College of Denver. She's now at University of Colorado, Denver, finishing up her Bachelor's of Science in Biology.
Thank you, Alicia, and hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our presentations today. My name is Khokolah Sherzad, and my project is about the detection of methane emissions from natural gas power plants in the United States. And before anything else, I would like to thank my wonderful mentor, Yos, for helping me, supporting me throughout this project. And I would also like to thank the REC team, Alicia, Beck, Anna, and Dana, and the whole cohort for supporting throughout the summer. Next slide, please. Okay, so my main focus of my project is to find the sources of methane. And after carbon dioxide, methane is the second highest greenhouse gas that affects the climate change and global warming. And at least 25% of global warming, of today's global warming, is caused by methane. And methane is also emitted from a variety of different anthropogenic and natural sources. And these anthropogenic emission sources includes landfills, oil and gas system, agriculture activities, coal mining, and etc. And then this project matters because understanding the sources of methane can help us find ways to limit their emissions. And on my right side, I have a chemical structure of methane. Next slide, please. Okay, so there are a lot of power plants in the United States, and the principle is that they don't release methane. In fact, they combust it to produce energy. So there are some reports that of methane released from natural gas power plants, but we don't have a lot of data. And the reason why we don't have a lot of data is because the other way to measure these emission is from the research aircraft, and these research aircrafts are not flown all the time, so they're only flown occasionally. So given the natural gas power plants are constantly combusting for energy, you will think that they will be a major sources of methane. So this study seeks to investigate whether or not that is the case. And this background picture is taken by my mentor, Joost. He took this from the on research aircraft, and I believe that is a coal power plant. Next slide, please. Okay, so methane has been measured from the space since 2017 by a space-based tropospheric monitoring instrument, which is also called TRPOMI. TRPOMI is a spectrometer that is measuring ultraviolet visible near-infrared and short waves. And this map here shows the average methane columns over the United States between December 1st, 2018 and March 31st, 2019. In these areas that are shown in red indicates high levels of methane emission, and the areas that are indicated in blue boxes, those indicates low level of methane emissions. And you may also be wondering what causing those red areas to be very high in methane emissions. So according to the Daily Satellite Observation article, the Central Valley of California, that is a region with a strong methane emission from agriculture and from oil and gas production systems. And Florida may be related to emissions from wetlands. And also Texas has several oil and gas production regions as well. And these several states under this red box has intense agriculture productions of corn and soybeans, which is ranging from North Dakota through Minnesota, Illinois, and Ohio, as well as the Mississippi Delta regions. Next slide, please. Okay, so for this project, methane anomaly is derived from the TRPOMI satellite, and these are all the anomalies that we worked with. And this map shows the anomaly data for every day of January 2020. And you will also notice that some of these categories have different colors, but we focus, for our project, we focus on the first category, where which is shown in red. This category is where the measured methane is much higher than the expected methane. Next. Okay, so the data for the power plant locations were obtained from the EPA website, which is the Environmental Protection Agency website. And then we used AgriPro to calculate the nearest methane anomaly for each of these power plant. These power plant includes oil, gas, and coal plants. And we present these as cumulative histograms by fuel type. In these histograms shows the integrated fraction of power plants on the x-axis and the distance to the nearest anomaly on the y-axis. And then we found that 14.8% of natural gas power plants are within the 10 kilometers from the methane anomaly, and essentially collocated due to the resolution of the anomaly data sets. So since there are many anomalies, so how now the question is how significant this number is. So in order to find the significance, we also studied the distance from random locations to the nearest anomaly as well. Next slide, please. And then we found that 8.8% of these random locations are also collocated with the methane anomaly. So next. So the evidence that these power plants release some methane, but on average these power plants are the evidence are really weak that these power plants release methane, but on average they're very close to the methane anomaly than the random locations. So the data indicates that power plants are not a frequent sources of methane, which is a good news, but further research is needed to determine the association of methane anomalies with other potential unknown sources such as landfills and oil and gas wells, because this information is very vital to combat global warming. So yeah, this is the end of my presentation. These are my references and acknowledgement.
All right, really well done. Thank you very much, Khokolah. What questions do we have for Khokolah? So how do they differentiate between oil, gas, and cows? Or do they?
Oh, they do. So if you go to the previous slide where I have the histogram slides, yeah, right here. Yes, this slide. So we can see, so even though they're all on average, they're more closer to the methane anomaly than the random location, but we can see the oil plant, which is shown in red color right there, the top one, that is a little bit more closer to the methane anomaly than the coal and gas. Coal and gas are kind of related to each other than oil.
Right. Excellent. Do you have any more questions for Khokolah? Okay. Let's go ahead and move on